to you all, and welcome to the Muslim Center of Greater Princeton. My name is Murad Lodi. I'm the chairman of MCGP. Along with me are some board members. If we can identify them, if you can please stand. Dr. Zakaria Mania in the back is our vice chairman for MCGP. Brother Tahir Zafar, our board member at MCGP. Sister Nadia Bandukta, another board member. And Brother Hasib is somewhere. It's right here, another board member. So once again, thank you so much. Such a beautiful, diverse crowd, which completely resonates with our MCGP mission. We welcome you all. I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I'm going to hand it over to Sister Nadia, who actually leads our interfaith group as a committee chair, board liaison, and do many other things. But among many things, she is our board liaison for interfaith. Sister Nadia Bandukta.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. This is an incredibly beautiful, diverse crowd. This is exactly the mission of MCGP. So thank you for making it even more beautiful today. Very briefly, I wanted to just say this, okay? And this is to our esteemed candidates as well. What you're sitting in right now is actually larger than the space that this whole Muslim community fit in down at 379 Princeton Heightstown Road. This is larger than the space that we used to fit in and pray. And so with humility, with a lot of door knocking, with a lot of community engagement and a purpose and mission, we are here today. And the reason I want to say this is because all of you are here today with a core mission. And I hope no matter what the outcome of this election is, that we continue to stay partners. And then a reminder to the community, and this is kind of the one that makes me cry almost every time, but I'm not going to, is that the reason that this is now this huge, beautiful Muslim Center of Greater Princeton, where we now have a free health clinic, and there is a kitchen that is at full service and feeds the poor, and our interfaith events that happen at least once a quarter. All that stuff happened because when we were fighting for a spot on this land, our Jewish neighbors, our Christian neighbors, and of course our Muslim community came together, stood together, and said, we know those folks, we know those people, and we vouch for them. And this is why we stand together. So no matter what, continue to be our friends, continue to be our neighbors. Let's work on this together. No matter what the stances of all of you, we respect and value difference of opinion. It is a democracy, born and raised here, I understand that. And so let's work together and welcome. Welcome. And even though the next person does not like being introduced at all, his voice will move you, and I feel like I have to say we are really, really fortunate to have Sheikh Ismail Isa amongst us and a leader within this community to just start our program with beautiful welcoming remarks out of our Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ولقد وصينا الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم وإياكم أن اتقوا الله وإن تكفروا فإن لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكان الله غنيا حميدا ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكفى بالله وكيلا إن يشأ يذهبكم أيها الناس ويأتي بآخرين وكان الله على ذلك قديرا من كان يريد ثواب الدنيا فعند الله ثواب الدنيا والآخرة وكان الله سميعا بصيرا صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, Sheikh Ismail. My name is Sami Kadovic. I'm the executive director of the New Brunswick Islamic Center, a community center not far north of here. And I'm going to read the translation of what was just recited as we are coming upon the month of Ramadan in 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks. It is the month of the Quran, and it is the month in which the Muslims will reconnect with the Quran as they do in a more purposeful, meaningful way, and we will hear every night recitation from the book to complete the recitation in full in the original Arabic language throughout the entire month. And we invite everybody to join us either in MCGP or any of our Islamic centers. You're more than welcome to come any evening. To God belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth. Indeed, we have commanded those given the scripture before you, as well as you. Be mindful of God. But if you disobey, then know that to God belongs whatever is in the heavens and the earth, and God is self-sufficient, praiseworthy. To God alone belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, and God is sufficient and a trustee of all affairs. If it is His will, He can remove you altogether, humanity, O mankind, and He could replace you with others, and God is most capable to do so. So whoever desires the reward of this world, then let them know that with God are the rewards of this world and the hereafter, and God is all hearing and all seeing. As we're gathered here this afternoon to hear from the candidates for the 12th District, Congressional District, it is forums like this that are so important as citizens of the United States for us to hear the various perspectives of those who are seeking leadership in the leadership capacity over us. And it is so important that we stay engaged in voting and expressing our concerns. We all know the frustration we felt and that we continue to feel when we have leadership that's just not responsive to us, and those who are in those positions of power want nothing more than you to stay home and not vote. Those who don't care want you to believe your vote doesn't matter. And so that's why it is so important that we make sure we are voting to express our support or objection to what and who is being in these positions of power. We thank all of the candidates for coming out here and for engaging us. This is part of the process of to hear the concerns of the community, of the constituents, but also to hear the positions of the leadership. This election is critical. Why do I say that? Because this is the district of Congresswoman Bonnie. We cannot have or take a step back and end up with a congressperson other than one like or better than Bonnie. We cannot take a step back. We don't want those other districts and those other individuals and those other types of doing business. We can't have that here. And that's why this election is so important for this district. We have to set the standard for a higher level of discourse and participation. And so while we're listening to policies today, I want you to think about, because we were blessed to be in this district with Congresswoman Bonnie. What are we looking for? Not merely where they stand on a particular issue, but we had the honor to have an individual who was principled and a good person. And so when we're talking about leadership, we have to hold our leaders to that standard, to be good people above their policies. Because otherwise it is disgusting, as we're seeing in the media today. Literally, with every dump that comes out, and metaphorically, how politics is done, because only we focused on with our candidates is where they stand on an issue. No. We were in a district where we had a principled person, where policies and opinions and her vision was part of that, but it wasn't the only thing she had. And so we're looking for today, and for this going forward, that we continue with that in this District of 12 here in New Jersey. So make sure as we're paying attention to that, it's very simple. What is a good person in politics? Someone who cares about their constituents. We're in a mosque, we're talking about the Quran, right? And other faith traditions that are here. It's very simple. Prophetic leadership, that's what we want. Prophetic leadership, which means what? You stand for truth, you stand for justice, you serve people who are under your authority. You serve them. You don't serve foreign nations. You don't serve lobbyist groups. You don't serve the rich and powerful. You serve those who are under you. That's what we're looking for. And we were lucky and fortunate to have that in this district. And so make sure you're listening, paying attention, and do your homework. And whatever you hear today from the different candidates, make sure you're sharing with those who aren't here. Don't wait for TV ads, etc. Share what you heard. This is where they stand here. This is what they stand there. We all collectively have to be involved and make sure that we protect this district with one like or better than Congresswoman Bonnie. Thank you so much. Get out the vote, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome. My name is Ali Yazhar. I'm the New Jersey Organizing Manager for Engage Action. We're one of the Muslim political advocacy organizations that helped organize this panel. I want to thank the board members for opening up their space and their mosque for us to have this event. And I want to thank all the organizers, right? So particularly want to recognize the co-sponsoring organizations, New Jersey League of Muslim Voters, the New Jersey Muslim Lawyers Association, the New Jersey Muslim Voters Project, the American Muslims for Democracy, CARE New Jersey, and ICNA Social Justice Council of New Jersey. Also want to thank all the candidates who are here. The timing of this is quite auspicious, right? January, we just ended Muslim Heritage Month. New Jersey was one of the first states in the country that designated January as Muslim Heritage Month. New York just declared it a couple weeks ago. You know, they like to follow our lead. And we're now 8 days into Black History Month. Black Muslims actually make up the largest racial proportion of Muslims in this country. Black Muslims have been in the US, unfortunately, since we're the first Muslims in this country were brought over as slaves from West Africa. So I just want to note that we are in this auspicious time between January and February, and as Brother Sami mentioned, we're approaching the holy month of Ramadan. So for Muslims, this time is quite important. And I just want to reiterate what Brother Sami said. We have such a great, we're quite blessed to have such choice in the number of candidates that are running in this race, because, good luck to all of you, but you have really big shoes to fill with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman. Reiterating what Brother Sami said, please stay engaged. New Jersey is home to over 350,000 Muslims. We actually have the highest number of local elected Muslim officials as a proportion of our population in the entire country. So Muslims in New Jersey, but Muslims particularly in this state, are incredibly politically engaged. But beyond that, I want to just note that nearly 60% of those of you who are in this audience are actually non-Muslim. So I want to thank you all particularly, yes. I want to thank you all for being allies, being community advocates for our community. For many of you, this may be your very first time at a mosque, so welcome. Please don't let this be your last. During Ramadan, we do a lot of community iftars. It's all about, communal gatherings and communal prayers. So please come by to any of our mosques. There's nearly a dozen mosques in the 12th Congressional District, in pretty much every major municipality in this district. So there's a mosque near you, no matter where you are. I particularly want to thank a couple of people before we officially get started. First and foremost, Sister Omaima Mansour from CARE Action New Jersey. Brother Ramzi Abdullah from the New Jersey Muslim Civic Coalition Activate. I've spoken more to these two in the past 2 weeks than I have to my entire family. And every time a new candidate was jumping into this race, you know, they helped me kind of walk me off the ledge. This table can only go so far until we're basically going to be outside those exit doors, I think. So yes, so thank you to the two of you, especially. This will be the first of many public events that we do. You know, it's still very early on. This race is, you know, we still have 4 months left, believe it or not. So I want to acknowledge, first and foremost, in case there are any questions, every candidate was invited to participate in this forum. This is strictly a nonpartisan event. You know, I have to read the note that the lawyers want me to say. The opinions and statements made here are those exclusively of the candidates. They do not reflect the opinions of the Muslim Center of Greater Princeton, nor any of the co-sponsoring organizations. You know, I just want to also note, you know, there were a couple of candidates, Assemblywoman Verlina Reynolds-Jackson and Sue Altman, who unfortunately have family and personal issues that they're dealing with, so please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And Mayor Brad Cohen unfortunately had scheduling conflicts and was not able to make it. However, we will be doing another forum or town hall later on in the primary, and we hope at that point all the candidates, those who are here and those who are not, will engage and participate. So beyond that, we will kick it off and get started. I want to just introduce our two moderators for today. We have Councilwoman Iman Al-Badawi, who has been a councilwoman. You stand up actually so people can see you, because people in the back might not be able to see you. Thank you. Who has been a councilwoman in Cranberry, what, your third term, second term?
This is my second term.
Second term. And then we have Omar Abu Atiyah. He is a Rhodes Scholar at Rutgers University. So I will, oh, and then just some housekeeping rules. Please, you know, keep your phones on silent. We want you to be engaged and respectful of the candidates who are here and the other audience members. Please take any phone conversations outside the hall if you need to. Bathrooms are right outside this door. Men's restroom is to the left, ladies is to the right. Obviously the exits are right here. Anything else, housekeeping? We're good? Okay, great, let's get started. I'll pass on the mic.
Can you guys hear me? Yes. Hello and welcome. As introduced earlier, my name is Iman Al-Badawi. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and it's a pleasure to be able to moderate this forum. I have a few rules that I'd like us to go over in terms of the question and answering process. We've assigned the order for each round of questions at random. For your opening remarks, you will have 90 seconds to share your personal story and why you are running. We will then jump into a series of questions spanning immigration, affordability, healthcare, campaign finance, civil rights, and foreign policy. For each, there may be a combination of open-ended and hand-raising yes-no questions. Any candidate can ask for a question to be repeated a second time. Once we conclude our question and answer portion, you will have 90 seconds to deliver closing remarks at the end. This is a forum, not a debate. So candidates will not be given an opportunity to address any other candidate's remarks or directly respond to another candidate. We will be using a timer to ensure we are fair and equal to all candidates. Will the timekeeper please just acknowledge themselves? Perfect. Can you guys see the time? Perfect. For our attendees, please remember to sign in and visit the voter information registry desk at the back of the hall after our form is complete. And please be respectful of all our candidates and silence all of your phones and take any conversation outside of the hall. Additionally, please refrain from any applause or any verbal feedback to responses so that we may make the best use of our time. I did want to share with you all that as we're sitting in a mosque, Muslims pray 5 times a day. One of the prayers will meet us in the middle of this forum. You may hear a faint call for prayer next door. We will pause briefly for about a minute. And those of us who will be praying Asr prayers, I kindly ask you to leave quietly, or if you have already prayed, then that is certainly great. You won't be missing the rest of the forum. So without further ado, I think I would like to ask our candidates to please introduce themselves to our audience and talk about why you are running, as well as what is the single most urgent issue you would prioritize in Congress. And we would like to start with Commissioner Chanel Robinson, and we will go to your left. 90 seconds, please.
Assalamu alaikum. My why is each and every one of you, the people. I got into this knowing that I had a skill set, knowing that I had to serve my country, knowing that I could bring people together around issues and stay focused on the mission and goal as I did in the military. We have gotten away from center. People are after their own interests. People are in the positions for power. People have been in the positions to keep others out, to keep others' voices muted, to keep others' voices silent. This is about the people, human rights, dignity, quality of life, and there is no other way of a higher service of calling than to be a public servant leader. I have served my country, I have served my community, I have served my family. And no better way than to take my skill sets and what I have done at every level of government than take that to Washington. I fix fighter jets. I can fix the engine in Washington. Not because I say so, but because I have a proven track record of doing so in this political space.
Thank you for getting it in at the 90-second mark. Perfect.
All right. Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Squire Servance. I am a husband. I'm a father. I am an attorney. I'm a healthcare leader. I am a man of faith. I am running because this moment that we're in is calling for principled leadership and someone that's grounded in service. Admittedly, and you will hear throughout my answers throughout the night, I'm not a politician, but I am grounded in, I'm a lifelong servant leader in my community and have a track record of advocacy for the underserved, underrepresented, and for justice. As a congressman, I would fight for and ensure that we have new, fresh ideas, innovative legislative thinking, and a commitment to building a broad tent so to ensure that we can build laws or make laws that affect or that benefit everyone, not just the chosen few. My experience in healthcare and life sciences has really shown me how federal policy can really have a strong impact on everyday people's lives, from drug pricing to access to care to innovation, ensuring that it reaches those who need to be. And I've seen how progress can happen if you can listen first and bring people to the table. So I'm very excited to be here today amongst the Muslim community here. You guys deserve, this community deserves representatives that's going to fight for justice, fight for the rights and civil liberties, protection of civilian life, and religious freedom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum to all. My name is Sujit Singh. First of all, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for various organizations empowering Muslim community to have a stronger voice in our democracy. I'm running because I believe in the human services based on my experience for several decades. I worked in West Windsor and around in various non-profit organizations, improving quality of life for several hundred people, and also impacted several thousands, and now working on a professional way, impacting 1.2 million children in a positive way across Latin America and Caribbean. I believe in a human services, the dignity, justice, and freedom for all. The real values, what we believe in as American, right? So I will focus on especially making sure that the policies in federal level as a congressman, immediately I work on in bipartisan level, making sure that there is a human enforcement of the law, not the fear what we see in the communities spreading across America. It's against our democracy. It's against our American values. That is the one thing which is pressing issue currently, and it's kind of a broken what we see in America. So I will strongly defend our civil liberties and constitutional rights. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. My name is Isaiah Thompson. I'm not really a typical politician. I'm really a policy nerd and an organizer. I spent most of my career in basements with tenants who are trying to deal with flooding and get sort of repairs from their landlords. Spent my time on the Hill in state houses and in city governments, helping politicians essentially understand the issues that people are going through and how to fix them. What that has taken me and really given me the experience to see is, I can speak to a time last year where I was in a meeting with a House member and they fell asleep. I had another opportunity to push some real policy and was working with members, and seniority stopped it. We really have to have leadership in New Jersey 12 that follows the great leadership that we've had for the last decade. And I believe that I can bring that to this district, and whoever wins this seat is going to need a lot of people helping them to understand policies. I would like to give the people of this district a chance to skip that and hire someone who can already do that. And if there's one policy issue that I would focus on, it's taking out money from our politics, because its deleterious effects have really impacted what's going on domestically, but also abroad, and makes a real impact on the decisions that people make. And if I can only do one thing, I would love to stop that.
Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum. My why is the promise we make to the next generation. Like many of you, my parents immigrated to this country 30 years ago, thousands of miles away. They left their families behind because they believed in an idea called America. The idea that no matter who you are or where you come from or how you worship, that if you work hard, you can make it and your kids can be better off than you. Those daily dinners for my parents turned into 3-minute phone calls on a calling card, and it was a sacrifice that they felt was worth it, because that's a promise we make, and that promise is breaking because our politicians are so focused on corporate profits and creating violence here at home and abroad than actually delivering for all of us. I've worked in the White House, I've worked in the Department of Energy. I'm proud to be someone who has delivered for this district on the federal level by implementing the largest climate jobs investment in US history. I'm proud to be running in a district represented by Bonnie Watson-Coleman, someone who is a progressive icon, who has encouraged all of us to have the courage to step up. And the question that we all have to ask ourselves as she passes on the torch is, are we ready to bring that torch to the next generation? Because I'm 28 years old and my generation has never experienced normalcy in our politics. We grew up in the aftermath of 9/11, we lived through forever wars, a recession, we graduated into a pandemic, and now we're living in a cost of living crisis, where now we need our politicians to make sure folks like us can afford to live in the communities we grew up in.
Thank you.
Greetings and salam alaikum. I'm a democracy scientist, and my reason for running is to stop the damage to the system and to do more than that, to rebuild a system that is fair to all, everyone here, and every bit of the diverse community of the 12th District. I was born in the United States, but my parents came here from China. They fled communism in the 1940s, and they came here to build a better life for their children, including me and my 2 siblings. Communist China is a place that persecutes religious minorities, and I appreciate how important it is for everyone to be able to build their lives. I now teach and do research at Princeton University. I study autism, how the brain learns, and I've built a successful company that leads to early diagnosis. But more important than that, I think for your representative, for representing you, I use science also to study democracy and to study fairness. I'm driven by that. It's not enough to undo the damage of the last years. We have to build something new and never let this happen again. There are many good people here, and the reason that we're all here is because of the demise of the county line, a ballot system that favored people who were the most connected. I was an expert witness to stop the county line, and I'm going to apply that expertise in Washington to rebuild a system that works well for all. I present myself to you as an outsider with experience to help build a better democracy for tomorrow.
He has a microphone.
Salam, thank you everyone. My name is Michael Anderson. I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey. And one quick thing, I just want to pay homage. I know the brother was talking about the first black Muslims coming enslaved, but Mansa Musa from the West, Mansa Musa and the Malians predated any European colonial landing here. And I think it's important to pay homage to the truth. And that's also why I'm running here for Congress. Because I fervently believe we need truth tellers. I've spent the majority of my entire life as someone growing up in a single parent home from Plainfield, New Jersey, whose dad actually served with Malcolm and Muhammad Ali, severely disenfranchised by federal government policies. And although the federal government has done everything they could to ensure our incarceration rates are extreme, our access to capital is very minute. I've been on the front lines of helping open 2 federal offices for small businesses, and I believe that economic justice is the most essential truth that we need right now. We can't have $100 trillion of institutional capital controlled by a couple people. I spent 10 years in federal court, United States District Court, as well as state courts, beating the billionaires, beating Bezos and the Amazon Co. And I'll continue to fight for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Elijah Dixon. I'm a father, organizer, and economic development professional based in Trenton, New Jersey. Throughout the day, I lead economic development programming for a national nonprofit out of the Newark, New Jersey office, where I work across geographies, cultures, and ethnicities to bridge the gap between the have and have-nots. In the evenings, still a full-time father, community gardener, and I enjoy meditating along the canal. I'm running because there is a sickness that has been deeply ingrained within the political landscape here in our country. And as the brother before me just said, we do need truth tellers. We need people who are going to fight for equity, stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters across the world when unchecked American imperialism and hegemony goes rampant without those who we have bestowed upon them with our votes, speaking up on behalf of those whose voice has been marginalized. In a perfect world, there would be no need for campaign finance, and we are able to put ourselves forward to you, the voters, directly without having to worry about donations. But I'm here to first and foremost focus on economic justice, and my responses from here on out would tackle that. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adam Hamoui. I am a doctor, a veteran, a small business owner, a father, a husband, a humanitarian, and I grew up in this district. I went to kindergarten and elementary school here. I joined the National Guard when I was here. I ended up serving my country and as a combat surgeon in Iraq. I came back and I set up my business here. My family is growing up here and going to public schools. I have been in the trenches working in the community for many years. I work in emergency rooms, I work in my practice, and I see every year how it's difficult for everyone to get access to care, to afford health care, and they're making choices between groceries and rent and being able to get the surgeries that they need. And at the same time, I travel overseas and I do mission trips and I see the destruction that's happening in other countries. A couple of years ago, I went to Gaza and I cannot describe what I saw there. We have enough money to fund atrocities abroad. We have enough money to have ICE go through the streets and fund them as they kidnap people and kill US citizens and people who are just going about their daily lives. I'm not afraid to say abolish ICE. I'm not afraid to call a genocide. We need people like that in Congress, and I will do that.
Salam. My name is Andres Janete. I'm the Green Party candidate for this district. I'm a community organizer. I'm a member of Central Jersey Tenants Union. I've been working on the streets, making sure that families get the support that they need. I have recently, I just helped a mother and child whose husband and godfather were snatched up by ICE. I've been organizing in my community, walking the streets, talking to religious institutions, connecting folks left and right. And I'm trying to, what I'm bringing to this district is the fight to take to both parties, regardless of ideology. I'm trying to unite us, to put at the front and be able to take it to Washington, D.C. I know that folks are getting donations from a different corporate interests. These are the reasons where we're not able to get the legislation that we need. And we need social investment, and I'm proposing slashing the military budget 2/3 and bringing home all that money that is used to genocide folks in Gaza across Latin America, and bring here to invest in housing, to invest for a universal system of healthcare, and to purchase and forgive all student debt, and build the free higher education system that we need. In addition, I think we need to tax billionaires, every dollar after the billion for every billionaire, so that we can raise the money that we need and fund the social spending that our communities require. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Kyle Little. I am 37 years old, and I'm not your typical politician. I'm a small business owner. I'm the owner of Isolation Fitness, in which I own 2 studios, both in Middlesex County. One is in Metuchen, New Jersey, which got rated the best downtown throughout the country. And the other one is in Edison, which is the biggest town in Middlesex County. I'm also an adjunct college professor. I teach at King University. I have class tomorrow. And I am running because I feel like both parties, even though I am a Democrat, both parties are not standing up for marginalized communities enough. And I have been running since last year. And I am running because we have a fascist in office, and as a black, openly gay man, I have to fight for marginalized communities and bring the diversity within our community, because NJ12 is one of the most diverse districts across the country. And I just see what is going on with small business owners. I see what's going on with seniors and them wanting to take healthcare away, and everything is personal to me. I'm the proud grandson of 2 91-year-old grandparents. I am the proud son of 2 parents that are over 65. And I am the older brother to a black sister, in which black women are dying at 7 times the rate of during childbirth in the state of New Jersey right here. So I am willing to confront all of these issues up front. I am very vocal, I am very outspoken, and I am definitely the person that will lead this district forward. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adrian Mapp, and I am a 3-term mayor of the city of Plainfield, having just been re-elected to my 4th term. And as mayor of the city, I have learned that when you listen, when you show up, and when you deliver, it doesn't matter what party you belong to. What matters are the results that you can deliver for the people that you serve. And I am running as a very poor individual who came to this country almost 45 years ago, and who struggled, and who have used education as a vehicle to lift me up and to transport me to where I am today. And so I have worked in corporate, having worked for Bristol Myers Squibb for a number of years, and then I came into public service because it was a calling. And there are so many issues facing our 12th Congressional District, which I know that given my experience, given my background, and as a pragmatist who knows how to deliver, how to get things done, all of the issues that we face Whether we're talking affordability in terms of housing, in terms of healthcare, in terms of job, education, and the ability of young parents to be able to know what they're going to be doing with little Johnny and Mary in those hours when they are looking to get home and they are not sure what they can do with little Johnny or little Mary.
Thank you, Mayor Mapp. I'm sorry, the 90 seconds are over. Thank you. With that, we're going to end our portion with regards to the to our personal statements, and my good friend Omar will lead us in our questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for abiding by the time restriction. So, the first question that we have is very timely. It's addressing ICE. ICE was created in 2003 under the Department of Homeland Security, a post-9/11 restructuring that shifted immigration enforcement from civil administration into a national security framework. In addition to many affected marginalized groups, ICE has also targeted the Muslim community, from international students like Mahmoud Khalil and Rumaysa Oster, to right here in New Jersey, like the Emanat family, owners of Jersey Kebab based in Haddon Township, and Liqat Kordia, a New Jersey resident from Patterson, who has been detained 1,500 miles away in Texas, and just yesterday was recently hospitalized without her family's knowledge due to a medical emergency. As a member of Congress, what steps would you take to ensure that all communities, especially those that are most vulnerable, feel safe and supported amidst escalating aggression from ICE? The first answer we'll take from Dr. Adam Hamawi.
I would start. It's real simple from the start. We just have to abolish ICE. It was established more than 20 years ago, and it was established basically as like we felt the results of this as a community for 20 years, and only now we're seeing the results. When you start by attacking one marginalized group, you open the door and the precedence for others. And right now it's irredeemable. We have mass stormtroopers going through the streets and terrorizing everybody. So it has to be removed. And then we have to look at the DHS and how it's formed. And we need to dismantle it and figure out a way that works better, where justice is applied equally, where we separate, the enforcement of borders and we enforce our own civil liberties and human rights across the board. So I think, that's where we have to start. Just restructure the whole thing. Right now it's too confusing.
Yeah, we can move to Andreas.
Thank you. Towards abolish ICE, we need to, as Dr. Hamawi was talking about, this is an agency that's only 25 years old. It was created during the Patriot Act era, and it has overreached. It in a way was designed to do what it's meant to do. There was children already dying with medical conditions under Obama, and it has expanded now that we've fueled it with enough money as if it was another military. And there's no reforming this agency. We have to completely shut it down. I've been organizing on the ground, actually helped build Rapid Response in Central Jersey. If anyone has ever seen one of these little packets right here, this has been us. And we need to continue to organize. And what I can do with the office is coordinate and bring up, and with organizing through the office, and on the ground, we can do a little dance and make sure that this legislation that does this work is focused and takes effect in Washington. Thank you.
Oh, I was waiting for him to start the time. Abolish ICE. All right, period. We have to abolish ICE. ICE is not even a legitimate organization at this point. They are January 6th Capitol riots that are doing Donald Trump's bidding. And they are brutalizing our communities. ICE has to go. Another thing I want to tell all of you is know your rights as well. ICE is immigration enforcement. They are not law enforcement. Okay? So ICE is not supposed to go up to you and pull you over, drag you out your cars. You do not have to stop for ICE. Okay? So know your rights. Also, if ICE ever comes up to you telling you that they don't need a warrant, they do need a warrant. Okay? So abolish ICE, we have to get rid of it, and that's it. That's plain as day.
So clearly, ICE has been a problem all across these United States. And communities have been under attack, have been targeted, and as a result of that targeting, we've seen lives lost. And ICE need to be reined in. And the funding that is so disproportionately allocated to ICE to wreak havoc on our communities, that must end. So we must make sure that there are guardrails in place to prevent entities like ICE from targeting our communities. And the whole notion that this is about getting rid of the worst, we've seen that not to be the case. And Americans all across the United States have felt the effects of ICE, and so we have to stop ICE, we have to defund ICE, and stop it from creating the havoc that it has over the course of the last several weeks and months.
Abolish ICE. There is no reforming, there is no restructuring. It has wreaked havoc on all of our lives. People are living in fear. This is not the country I took an oath to stand up for. This is a country that we don't even recognize. And because they have been allowed to form and do what they do and have not been stopped, it's problematic. It's problematic for each and every one of us and our quality of life. It's problematic for those who are here to do the work of the people. People can't even send their kids to school. My son is a preschool director in the town of New Brunswick. And as of now, he has one student that has to be disenrolled because their family members have been picked up by ICE. This preschooler has no idea what their life will be in the coming weeks. It has been turned upside down, and the quality of life for American people should not rest on ICE. ICE has to go. The funding for ICE has to go away.
We need to ground our policies in the Constitution, in human dignity, in fairness, and due process. ICE, as currently constructed, can no longer go forward this way. I think if we're looking at how we need to be structuring it in the near term, let's start with ensuring we have warrants. Let's stop using ski masks. Let's stop profiling based off of race and religion. Let's make sure we restrict enforcements in hospitals and schools and places of worship. Let's make sure that there's a national standard for enforcement going forward so that we don't have the unconstitutional abuses of powers that we currently have. Where we are right now is unthinkable. I've traveled around the world and I've seen situations like this. You typically do not see this here in this country, and we need to do better and we need to change.
So I went to Trenton, one of the Mercer County Action Committee, and it's called Mercer County Latino Action Organization, and I met with the folks there, and they were complaining, and I was listening. As I'm listening in every district, I'm going in my campaign. What I heard is really horrible stories. The people are not sending their kids to school, and the absentee rate in the school is really increasing. And also the small businesses are suffering, people are not going out. And especially what happened in Minneapolis, they shot and then, killed our American citizen. And then the DHS came out in a few hours. And making statements like this, it's really discrediting the DHS. What we need to do is a congressional oversight and accountability, strong enforcement of making sure that they follow the law and pick up the bad actors, keep our communities safe, not terrorize them. Thank you.
I'm absolutely disgusted with the response in Washington to what's happening with ICE. We have Democrats who voted in favor of continuing the budget, and then a Senate who didn't even put restrictions on that budget when it came to ICE enforcement. For me, you would be sending someone who 100% has been saying abolish ICE when it was a thing that would get you laughed out of a bar many years ago. I spent some time at Delaney Hall in Newark, which is one of the ICE facilities in New Jersey, And I'm just appalled at the conditions that people are living in, our neighbors, and the fact that that's right in our backyard. I think as a congressperson, I would have to put pressure on the company that's running that facility, and also the fact that it doesn't even have a certificate of occupancy, so it shouldn't even legally be running. So I think a congressperson can do a lot to stop that and to stop the facility in Roxbury from being created. I think we have to do that, and at the end of the day, you know, it's going to be very difficult to deal. Well, I'll talk about it more later.
I support abolishing ICE, and I want to tell you a personal story as to why. I grew up about 5 minutes from here. I went to Hightstown High School. As many of you know, it sort of accidentally made itself a sanctuary town back in 2005. And growing up, I sat next to kids on DACA who every day walked through our halls with the fear that they might return home and their parents might be taken away. And tomorrow morning, I know that so many of you know that thousands of parents across our district are going to have to put their child's birth certificate or their passport card in their backpack because this Supreme Court has made it legal for an ICE agent to go up to a child because of their accent or their appearance. So of course we want to abolish ICE, but it's so much deeper than that because we've lived this before. We have to codify DACA. We have to create an actual pathway to citizenship for those who have been here for long. And we know that the murders of these 2 US citizens these past months is just the beginning, and we have to put an end to it now.
The events of the last year have been horrifying and have shown us what happens when you have an unchecked executive. But I've also been inspired to see communities rise up, people who were previously not very politically engaged. If you see what the people of Minneapolis have done, they have come together and formed community. I've seen it here in our district. I've also spent a year working as Senate staff, and I've seen what Congress can do. There's a deep issue that we have to address, which is restoring Congress's power to not only defund ICE, but also assert muscular power, to use the power of subpoena to prosecute, to summon testimony, and we have to repeal ICE and also the Border Patrol and start over again. The leadership in Washington needs to be led to where the people are. And what I'm going to do is help get rid of ICE, replace it with legislation that really addresses true border problems and makes our communities safer for all citizens.
Thank you. Take from Michael Anderson. You just pass the mic over. Thank you.
So I had the chance to travel to Washington this past week and join Representative Strand from California, Senator Merkley, as well as Rep. Salinas on HR resolution regarding making the federal government civilly liable when people experience the lack of due process. Sorry, can I get another mic?
No, it's just that the feedback is done. It's turned it off. You're good.
All right.
I don't need a mic.
Look, please use the mic.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I spent 10 years of my life again fighting for the least amongst us, especially in New Jersey state prisons. And I think the first thing we need to do is realize there are atrocities happening in state-run facilities here. We took a state case to the Supreme Court a couple years ago for a prisoner that was tortured, abused, raped, and we have a huge prison ministry with a lot of Black Muslim brothers that need your support. But this past week, I was on Capitol Hill. I support what people are saying in terms of challenging ICE. I'm respecting prayer.
Sorry.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
So thank you so much for observing. That was the call to prayer, the third one of the day, as had been referenced earlier. We do want to give a chance to Michael to finish what he was saying, so we'll reload 15 seconds on that.
I was simply saying that this past week I traveled to Washington, D.C. To join Representatives Tran, Salinas, and Senator Merkley from Oregon for H.R. 7297, the ICE and CBP Constitutional Accountability Act, which is going to enable people to be able to sue the federal government to demand their due process, as well as be compensated when these instances exist. And unless you take money from these people, they're not going to respect it. We can protest all day, but they need to pay everybody that's experiencing these types of egregious events, and we need to take money from them, and that's the only way to make this thing right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, respectfully, I feel like saying abolish ICE and DHS is very sexy right now. It's the hot topic. It's cool. It's not practical. We would love that. I would love that. But right now, you have Democrats and Republicans taking funding from the same corporations that are running the private facilities. So what a member of Congress could do is utilizing the federal earmark process, also known as the Congressional Delegated Spending initiatives, enables Congress and senators to redirect dollars in the form of grants to local, on-the-ground nonprofit organizations that are doing the work, to be able to have Know Your Rights seminars, to be able to reach folks directly through the programs and initiatives and through the institutions and agencies that they are entrusting. Even if ICE was abolished, they have the FBI, then the NSA, the National Security Agency. Trump and others would then weaponize these agencies. We need to be able to redirect the resources to the organizations that are funding the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. That answer alone makes me feel like I could vote for all of you. So our next question is about the economy and affordability. Are we good? Excellent. Many New Jersey residents are struggling with rising costs, including groceries, housing, utilities, childcare, and healthcare. What specific actions would you take in Congress to address the affordability crisis in New Jersey? And let's start with Mayor Adrian Mapp, please. Thank you.
In terms of the affordability crisis that we're facing in New Jersey, we have to make sure that we provide decent, quality, affordable housing to the people of New Jersey, to the 12th Congressional District. And I will advocate and work with my colleagues across the aisle to make sure that we provide more lower-income housing tax credits so that we could address the issue of housing in the state of New Jersey. We also have to tackle the SALT tax deduction, which was limited for a number of years to $10,000. It was recently raised to $40,000. But we have to make sure that that is in place for a full 10 years so people can keep more money into their pockets and be able to afford to be a part of the American dream. I would champion healthcare because it's so important to this state and to this nation.
Thank you. We'll continue to the left. Thank you.
Thank you. Affordability encompasses a lot of things. You're talking about access to health care. I would champion and advocate and develop policies to do universal health care for all. A healthier resident, a healthier community, healthier employee means that we are healthier as a nation. You talk about affordability and access to health care. I have done the work in Somerset County where we have invested to Richard Hall, which is one of 2 mental health facilities in the state of New Jersey. We have given access to dental, vision, and medical. I am just not talking about talking points and issues. I'm talking about real class work that has been done, improving leadership. As a political leader and not a politician, I am here to do the work of the people. You talk about affordability of being able to afford your home. People can't sleep at night because they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So the policies at the congressional and federal level that negatively impact will rest on the shoulders of those who develop policies that will impact us for the next decade.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Affordability comes in a lot of different ways. It comes in food, energy, healthcare, housing. With respect to housing, I think we need to innovate in things like tying federal dollars to ensuring that states will build affordable housing in the state. I think we need to expand the low-income tax credit, low-income homebuyer tax credit. From a healthcare perspective, I believe in universal healthcare. I also know that good legislation is a combination of policy and politics, and I will fight for expanding Medicaid in the interim as a positive next step. I think we need to reestablish and expand how much the subsidies with respect to going into ACA. We have 27,000 people in this district who are about to lose their insurance with respect to Medicaid because of the big, I won't call it beautiful, big ugly bill, right? And then we have about another 32,000 that are about to lose or have their premiums double. So we need to fix that, and we need to fix that very quickly as this upcoming year.
Affordability. What is the really biggest elephant on the room is housing cost. And I bring 30 years of experience in technology, and we see all the corporations reducing their cost and optimizing their productivity and making more. We need to make sure we bring the emerging technologies and high tech into development of the housing, and especially bringing the federal policies, right policies, and partnering with some of the leading firms in this area, and making our district as a model innovation district across our state and our country. We can make it, we can make cheaper, faster, and less expensive homes, and it's doable. I can see in the tunnel 90% than anyone else because I lived in it. So it is interconnected, economy and affordability, and it's doable. We can make it, and I believe in it, and I will work on making those policies when I will be elected. Thank you.
I think the story of our region in New Jersey is a story of people who have been priced out of our communities. I was one of those people. A lot of my friends are those people. We have to deal with the housing, energy costs that people are dealing with, and also the healthcare costs that continue to rise. I was placed on the transition team for Zohran Mamdani's administration because of my work on housing policy. And I can tell you that we're not going to tax credit our way out of this crisis. The big ugly bill had the biggest increase in low-income housing tax credits ever, and I can tell you this, we're not going to see the big changes that we need. We need bolder policy, and that means a public option for healthcare, Medicare for all, but also a public option for housing. We need to take apart the financing that's happening in places like Seattle and places like Montgomery County that's keeping those units that are being created affordable in perpetuity and not just something that's going to run out eventually. So I think we really need to take much bolder steps when it comes to affordability, and it's not what's happening right now.
Thank you.
You know, I'm 28 years old, and I feel like my generation, we did everything we were told we were supposed to do. We worked hard in school, we got good jobs, and so many of us can't afford to live in the communities that we were born and raised in. New Jersey has the highest rate in the country of people my age still living with our parents. It's 43%, twice the national average. And I've talked to so many of you who say to me, Jay, my grandkids are gonna get raised in Florida if you don't fix this and step up with a new generation. And so what we need is a massive government investment in new clean energy and new housing. And I was proud to be a part of this when I worked in the White House in the Department of Energy. We unleashed the largest clean energy investment in US history to cut utility prices. And this past year, we've watched Donald Trump and corporate fascists undo so much of that progress. And that's why you've seen your utility bills double and triple in this past year. So it's time to put new economic innovation and actually bring in a new generation who can tackle the issues of our time rather than going back to the same policies that got us here in the first place.
Thank you.
You've heard some quite good ideas from others. Another is that there's a bipartisan housing bill that's stuck in the Senate right now, and it will do things like build more affordable housing. It will also reduce the impact of corporate developers over the development of construction of housing. This also has to be done in partnership with local organizations, state and local, and so a lot of things have to happen in Trenton and I would work with those people. But let me back up and say that even the best policies are going to hit a brick wall because of a lawless administration that will not obey laws that we enact. And so there's this fundamental problem of turning these proposals, which are very good ideas, into something that will be enforceable and make lives better here in the 12th District. And an important part of that is going to be Congress reasserting itself, using the investigatory power, using the impeachment power to stop people like a Medicaid administrator who doesn't take care of everyday people.
The American dream is entrepreneurship. If you're a first generation immigrant to this country, you probably came to this country with the concept of being able to forge your own destiny. And the most successful communities, particularly in people of color and underserved communities, have always been driven by entrepreneurship. I've spent my career here helping to create access to tens of trillions of dollars. Unfortunately, we were stopped every turn of the way or combated by the evils in Washington. Particularly when we're working to open minority business development offices. And I fervently have seen in my life that communities like ours, like the ones in this room, we're the ones that help each other, we're the ones that hire each other, and we're the ones that enfranchise each other. And we shouldn't have $5 trillion being managed by one firm, or approximately $100 trillion in the hands of a couple people. That money should be going to us as entrepreneurs to build our own communities, to invest in each other, to hire each other. And that model is what's helping smaller countries grow so fast and take a global stage from an impactful perspective. Thank you.
We are experiencing one of the most right-wing governments in the history of our country. To sit here and sell you a pipe dream about Medicare for all being enacted, the Green New Deal, social housing policies, I would be doing you a disfavor, a real word? I'll be doing you a disservice, thank you. Disfavor is crazy. I'll be doing you a disservice. Right now, what we can do is enact investigatory powers against the agencies that have the ability to increase our wages. There's only an affordability crisis right now because wages have not increased proportionally over the last several decades. The cost of college has increased tremendously, exponentially compared to our grandparents' generation, and so there is a lack of affordability because there's a disequity, but rather there's an inequity in terms of the wages and the affordability that we're able to realize for our families. So investigate the agencies. Thank you.
Affordability is a problem that everyone is facing. And the problem that we have in Congress right now is that people are afraid to speak up and afraid to fight for what is going to help everyone. So one person is not going to make a difference. But when many members step up together and say, we need universal health care, and talk to the physicians and to the patients and get the buy-in from everyone so that everyone has a stake in the system and want to make it work, then we could get a universal system like Medicare for all. We need to get affordable housing and at the same time build up infrastructure so that when the influx of people come in, we could handle the traffic and we handle the population that's coming in. We need public education to be at least tuition free for the public education. We shouldn't have to pay to educate our society so that we can compete in this world. But how are we going to pay for all this? Well, we spend $1 trillion in the defense industry, and it's going to defense contractors instead of the people. So just a fraction of that will fund everything that we need.
So what can the Greens offer in District 12 as far as the affordability agenda is concerned? Well, we have an establishment in Washington, D.C. that is convenient for them because they're funded by the real estate lobby, they're funded by the war industry, they're funded by a whole bunch of people whose interest does not lie in the people's affordability agenda. We have the strongest affordability agenda in the game. We're trying to purchase and forgive all student debt. and expand a higher education. We want to enact rent control and also to bring about universal health care. How can we do this? I'm a seasoned organizer. I've worked with tenants. I work in rapid response. I know what it's like to shift conversations locally. I know what it's like to build movement. You don't need, if you can supercharge it with the office, and that's what we will be able to do. But what we can do is organize the base and circumvent that establishment that doesn't want to move things. We need to shame people, we need to have key targets, demands, and go after their economies and hit them when it hurts. That's what the Greens can do for District 12.
Thank you. So one policy, I can't even take credit for this because this was actually Vice President Kamala Harris's policy, but it was a $25,000 housing grant for first-time home buyers. That, and I don't want to hear that we can't afford it, because if we could afford to spend billions of dollars to Israel to fund the genocide, and if we could afford to give $50,000 to each ICE agent across this country, we can definitely put more money into our citizens here and help them be able to afford a home. Universal health care. I believe that every citizen, no matter what your financial situation is, deserves the right to go into a hospital and get treated. We also have to bring back early Head Start and make sure that early Head Start is implemented in every neighborhood across this country, because people should be able to have kids and go to work and not have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in childcare. And the last thing is student loan debt forgiveness. I myself have been the burden of that. When I graduated college, I had over $75,000 worth of student loan debt, and they told me that at first they didn't even want me to go on my mortgage at first. So.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, so this question is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a hand raiser. Okay, so it will not be open-ended. You'll simply raise your hand if you agree with this statement. Okay, so the first Muslims in America were enslaved West Africans brought involuntarily via the transatlantic slave trade from the 16th to 19th centuries. Black Muslims, like all other Black Americans, have faced enslavement, discrimination, and racism for centuries. So by a show of hands, would you support the federal government enacting a reparations program for Black and Indigenous people? Thank you very much.
Everybody's hands on this one.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we're doing okay, or do you guys need a break? We good? We're all right?
We good.
All right.
We good, but we should just say that Mansa Musa and them was the first Black Muslims here, like, to destroy that narrative that it started in slavery, because it's not accurate.
All right. Thank
Respectfully.
you. Thank you. So this is an open-ended question. It is a short question, but maybe one that requires a little bit more thought. How would you ensure affordable health care access for working families who do not qualify for Medicaid but cannot afford private insurance? So I'll repeat that again. How would you ensure affordable health care access for working families who do not qualify for Medicaid but cannot afford private insurance? Let's start with Sujit.
Well, this is one of the key issue for us in affordability, the healthcare. And I would strongly work in congressional federal policies to ensure that we put in place our policy, not only just the Medicare for all, right? We need to make sure that this is the low-income families, and especially the families who is not qualified for Affordable Care Act, and they get proper coverage. So this is not I would say a privilege, it's a right. So health insurance for all of us is the human right, I would say. I would qualify that way. So I will work hard to make sure that we work together in a bipartisan way and make sure that the Medicare for all is not completely, but we can achieve this.
Thank you.
So again, I do believe in Medicare for all and public option for healthcare, but I think it's Medicare for all we've seen in other countries where there is universal health care that you have to do things that control costs. And I think the Obamacare legislation actually had some really great things that were never really used, such as cost savings, where there's a lot more standardization that could happen across the healthcare industry to make it so that people are actually getting treatment that makes sense and not the things that are really highly rateable for the physicians. I think we need, the US has some of the lowest doctors per capita in the world. We need to increase that, and that means making the education for doctors a lot easier, coming out with so much debt, then also being forced into sort of parts of healthcare that are maybe you can make the most money on it, but not what we need. We need our primary care doctors, our generalists, and we don't have that right now. So I think, there's a host of things added to Medicare for all that we really need to do, and this would really make sure that everyone has affordable and great healthcare.
This issue is so deeply personal to me. When my mom was 8 months pregnant with me, she worked 2 jobs as a daycare worker and a bank teller. My dad was on the train every morning to New York, and they could just barely afford their healthcare premiums every month. And that's why I support Medicare for all, because we have to take the profit motive out of health insurance, because your ability to get healthcare shouldn't depend on your ability to pay. But we know that as Democrats, as we try to flip the House, hopefully we flip the Senate, soon we flip the White House, that's gonna take time to build a Medicare for all majority. So in the short term, we need a public option to actually outcompete the private markets. We can't just keep giving subsidies to private insurance companies and lining their profits. We have to do more than that. And the thing that no one's really been talking about is, right now, the age at which you get kicked off your parents' health insurance is 26 years old. There are so many people in their late 20s, early 30s who are still underemployed in this country, which is why we need to increase the age at which you get kicked off your parents' health care plan, because that will definitely hit some of the people who are in this exact situation. Thank you.
When my mother was in the hospital with a terminal illness, one of the things that we were scared of was medical bills. And I remember my father calling me with this enormous medical bill and being terrified about it. And it turned out that there was this bureaucracy that we had to navigate in order to get the true cost of that. Medical care in America is filled with these inequities and filled with inefficiencies. Doctors who have to fill out endless records instead of taking care of patients. There are options that we have to pursue, such as the expansion of the public option, giving the federal government the power to negotiate for prescription drugs, and extending systems that work relatively well, such as the Veterans Administration. One thing that's going to block all of these is a Supreme Court that's out of control, that doesn't allow things like Medicaid expansion in all 50 states. And so we need to do the short-term things, which we've heard about, which are very important, also long-term, to rein in a runaway Supreme Court that will stop us from realizing these goals.
Thank you. Can we get that microphone all the way down? Thank you.
So with healthcare, just like housing, I think we need to raise the income limits. But I would add and destroy the credit check and destroy the ability for medical debt to impact one's ability to procure housing or other essentials. To answer your question in terms of how specifically, I think we need to give the other side something, and what the Republicans seem to be obsessed with is just making money and being able to sell things. And I think there are certain new innovative technologies that recipients of federal healthcare should be enabled to, which is accessible for people that have premium insurance in the private sector. And I think that we can increase the offerings and incentivize the providers that take the insurance for lower income and elderly Americans, as well as offer them more quality of life extending technologies, innovations, and systems that are improving the lives of the healthcare. Like Americans shouldn't be dying 5 years younger than other wealthy countries. And we need to change that and make that accessible for everyone.
As a socialist, I do believe in Medicare for all. I do believe in first introducing a public option for healthcare. As a realist, we are far from realizing that reality. So what I would do if I was afforded the privilege of serving as a congressperson would expand funding for what are known as FQHCs, those are federally qualified health centers, In the city of Trenton, we have one is called Henry J. Austin Health Center. These are nonprofit health facilities that do the good work of the Lord when people are turned away from private practices and the corporate hospitals and for-profit hospitals. And FQHCs are mandated to be able to meet that population that's just above Medicaid, but not necessarily wealthy enough to afford private insurance on the public market. That's my answer.
Thank you.
We are the wealthiest country in the world, in the history of the world, and yet we are the only country in the developing world that doesn't have a universal healthcare system for citizens and the people living in it. I believe healthcare is a human right. Full stop. Everyone should get it. Doesn't matter who you are. Shouldn't be tied to your job. Shouldn't be tied to your income. Shouldn't be whether you could afford insurance or not. If you walk into a doctor's office or if you walk into an emergency room, you should be taken care of and then not just kicked out in the street. If you need to have surgery, you need to be able to get it done and not have to go through tons of bureaucracy to get it done and approved. So I support a system that does this. Medicare for all, we need to engage the doctors so that they stay in the system, they're not turned away, that they could be reimbursed. We need to get it back to the patients. We need to take on the health insurance industry, which is basically profiteering from healthcare and not putting it back to really where the primary concern is. Let's take care of everybody, all the patients.
Thank you. So what can we do to get to universal health care? This is maybe, I've seen close to a consensus up here in this panel. We all understand this is important. What we could do, this is a majoritarian issue. This is not something that's unpopular or we need to convince somehow the American public about this. What we can do is we need to take down the leadership of both parties that are in the way of this universal healthcare system. We had a moment in the forced vote during COVID where a few votes for a speaker could have made a change, where they could have forced the vote on Medicare for all, and that thing could have passed, or at least it soured enough the landscape to be able to, in a second chance, try to do that. What we can do is, if we take on the leadership, if we're able to cut down the chase and get to the base and organize the base to speak to this issue, we can get it passed. But we need to be able to put the interests of the district above the relationship with the party.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, I'm also a strong advocate for universal health care. And if elected to Congress, I will also advocate to put more federal funding into our district to get more hospitals that are readily available. You have people now who are driving 30 minutes when they have a medical emergency, where they need immediate access to a hospital. So more federal funding, and we will also have to work with the state legislators as well. You know, the governor and even local mayors. But we want to build more hospitals and healthcare facilities in our local communities.
Thank you.
So I, like the rest of the panel, agree that healthcare is a human right. So we must lower costs, expand access, enforce anti-discrimination laws, and fully fund community health centers so that they can continue to deliver healthcare to the communities. And that this must be done without any concern for immigration status or faith, religion or creed. And I must tell you, I have done this. In Plainfield, the federally qualified health center was about to close its doors on September 30th. And I worked with developers to create a situation where we were able to infuse funds to prevent the Plainfield Health Center that serves Somerset, Middlesex, and Union County from closing its doors. And we are about to go even further by providing another infusion to help them erase the debt with the federal government so they can continue to serve the healthcare needs of Middlesex, Somerset, and Union counties. And I have done this.
Universal health care for all. Healthcare is a human right, it's not a privilege. I would have to come up with a plan with comprehensive medical plan, negotiation and transparency, expanding community health services and centers, and I have done that being an executive in healthcare for over 20 years. A faith-based hospital, we branched out and opened up and expanded community health centers so people would have access to health care. It should not be based on your zip code, but the need is there. Other countries have done it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. A comprehensive plan to lower prescription costs, workforce, targeting communities of color, targeting funding, equity initiatives, and quality improvement. Again, it shouldn't matter where your zip code, what your zip code is, and it is a human right.
I think when you're born, you should have insurance, period. That's what we're talking about. This question is really about gap insurance. But if you have insurance, right when you're born, you create some simplicity. There's a multi-billion-dollar industry that people help navigate, navigators to help navigate the complexity of the system. And by just simply having insurance when you're born, you fix that. Now, just because you have insurance does not mean you have access. And I think we all have to understand that, right? We look at other countries, I won't name any other countries, but we have some other countries, they have universal insurance, but it still takes months to get in to see the quality, see physicians. It takes 3 or 4 months. And we need to fix that. That's why you need to invest in community health centers. We need to make sure that people aren't using the ER as their emergency room. With respect to insurance, you gotta make sure that it's covering preventative medicine, it's covering annual physicals. And I think if we could do that, we can make sure we have a healthier, more affordable community in this district.
Okay, so I apologize. I've been given the essay questions tonight, very, very long ones. So, so very recently, in the 11th Congressional District in northern New Jersey, we saw a historic amount of money, upwards of $4.3 million, invested by corporate and foreign interest political action committees, PACs, into a New Jersey congressional race. The results in CD11 shocked the nation. It sent a strong message that New Jerseyans will not allow PACs to buy a congressional seat. There are 2 hand raiser questions. The first is, raise your hand if you publicly reject campaign contributions from corporate PACs. Thank you very much. The second is, raise your hand if you publicly reject campaign contributions from foreign interest lobbies, such as AIPAC, NORPAC, DMFI, and any of their associated PACs. There are many. Thank you very much.
Matt didn't raise his hand. It was long for you, but it was easy for them. Moving right along, we're going to talk about military spending. The U.S. defense budget is around $850 billion, making it the 3rd largest portion of federal spending. At the same time, many communities are told there isn't enough funding for education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Would you support reducing the military budget or foreign military aid in order to invest more on domestic social services program? Why or why not? And let's start with Isaiah Thompson.
I absolutely believe that we need to cut military spending and to invest in our communities across a broad array of things. And I think this is not a sort of an opinion that's on the fringe. And the Pentagon has not passed an audit in I don't know how long, maybe never. And I think American people are really waking up and seeing that the sort of actions that are being taken on their behalf are not really where they want their money spent, because we have too much to be done domestically. So I think this question is very easy in that front, but I think we need to really pay attention to the advancement of AI, machine learning in our military. Right now we have a situation where there could be a nuclear bomb released where no human actually had sort of the decision to make that, and it's not just for nukes, but for many different weapons of war. We have to roll back that. We have to keep and really would control SpaceX, Palantir, and other companies that are using these technologies and more.
Thank you.
I do think it's time to end this era in which so many of us feel that Congress exists only to line the profits of defense lobbyists and their corporate interests. And I'm proud to be a candidate that has worked in the federal government, who served in Washington, D.C., where I had a top secret security clearance, and I saw day in and day out how money spent on diplomacy and social spending to combat climate change and actually fund humanitarian aid programs does so much more for our national security than bombs and drones. And that's why we have to stand together as a community that stands up against not just violence abroad, but violence in our streets. Because that kind of military spending, it trickles down. You remember that phrase? To our local police departments, to ICE agents, and we need to make sure that we're investing in communities here, not violence on our streets and abroad.
Congress comes under intense pressure to maintain military spending. And in the long term, changes like campaign finance and removing the influence of corporate money on us, the representatives, is going to remove major pressure that leads to the profits of defense contractors. The military budget is quite enormous, and it contains weapon systems. It also contains benefits for working military families, and it contains even things like medical research. Given the constraints that we have on military spending, a major priority is going to be redirecting military spending to peacetime purposes, whether it be for housing for working military families, for peacetime medical applications. This is going to be a big problem. It's going to require short-term redeployment of military resources. It's also going to require long-term reforms that removes the influence of money on the representatives who are supposed to look out for our interests.
Yeah, like everyone else here, I absolutely know that the military-industrial complex, as previously been warned by various leaders from Kennedy on, has had a deleterious impact. I've seen personally an over-investment as I've traveled, worked extensively throughout West Asia, from UAE to Qatar to KSA, to all throughout that part of the world. I have seen and witnessed the good news that our culture is our most valuable export, but the bad news is a misalignment in terms of funding war. And I have rejected hundreds of millions of dollars from deep state agencies to do the work that you see characters like Nicki Minaj doing and using their platform to promote violence and wars. And I think that we need to shift what terrorism means. Organizations like CARE shouldn't be on any list in Texas and Florida, and we need to look at how we act as terrorists in different states, domestic and abroad. Thank you.
During the sister's opening contextual remarks, she had referenced that we spend $850 billion for our so-called Department of War. Trump had recently increased or requested an increase of $450 billion. This dwarfs many of our social welfare programs, and this is there's a track record of this throughout the past decades. We spent $2.2 trillion in Afghanistan, and I'm just thinking about those salient points for a family like mine, where I have a 4-year-old daughter and we had to have a home birth because my job would not cover the insurance costs for her to be born in a hospital. And so family and friends pulled and chipped in. There's a deeply ingrained inequity within our country, and it's capitalism is the root, but I'm not trying to sound ideological here, but all of these inequities are deeply entrenched and deeply interconnected, and we need to attack that root first before my time's up. Thank you.
40% of this defense budget is going to defense contractors, which lead back to corporate finance and the corruption that's in our current system on who is Congress answering to, who is our government answering to. Is it answering to corporations and billionaires and money, or is it answering to the constituents and the people who live here? If we take just a fraction of that money and reinvest it in our communities, rather than spending it overseas in endless wars and spending it here now in wars that are spilling into our own streets, we would solve a lot of the problems that we're talking about affordability and healthcare and education. So yes, I support cutting that defense budget. We don't need nearly $1 trillion in there. Even if we cut it by 40%, we'd still be #1 in the world in terms of war spending.
I think I'm the one who's gonna cut it the most. I want to cut it 2/3, and I think we need to bring that money home. We need to put that money to work. Why are we funding with property taxes our schools? We could take that money, in addition to taxing every dollar after the billion for corporations and billionaires, and we could bring that money to work in our local communities. We could take that money and solve the housing crisis that we have. We could have a universal healthcare system that could not have everybody struggling at the beginning of each year. Am I gonna get my tax credits or not? We don't have to live in this situation. We can have a better America. And that's what the Greenies are offering to you. That's what we are offering to you as a campaign. I think it's also very important that we shift priorities, that we begin a way of cooperating across the continent. The way of solving the migratory crisis is not bombing fishermen in the Caribbean and the Pacific, but creating partnerships that build jobs abroad, that build multilateral agreements, that help industries grow and connect us together. Thank you.
We 100% have to cut our military spending. I mean, especially right now, this lunatic in office, he's bombed about 8 different countries since January. Well, since last January. In terms of education, that is personal. As I mentioned, I'm an adjunct college professor at King University, and I know the funding that we need in education. I come from a family of educators. My mom, my aunts, everybody, all of the women in my family are educators. And my sister right now is a teacher in Roselle, New Jersey, and we have to put we have to put federal and state funding into these schools, because right now she is currently teaching in a classroom where she has special needs children in her classroom, and she is not a certified special needs teacher. So we have to definitely put more education into, more funding into education, cut our military spending, and pay our teachers even more.
We definitely need to cut our military spending, and we need to refocus those resources to fund housing, education, healthcare, and to reduce the tax burden that people at the bottom and the middle are facing. We need to cut back our military spending and stop sending all of these arms to places that are carrying out genocide against innocent people who don't have the right, well, not the right, but who don't have the ability to defend themselves. And so if we could reallocate the military resources that are being used to attack, nations such as Venezuela, planning attacks against Greenland, I think that we would do much better as a nation. And that hand-raising question that was asked about reparations, use some of that money to fund the national debt of countries in Africa that are being raped of its human and mineral resources.
Yes, cut military spending and funding. As a veteran, I've seen firsthand fraud, waste, and abuse. As an aircraft mechanic working on fighter jets, I'll give you a quick example. I needed one O-ring to fix a portion of this plane. I got a sheet of 20 to 30. All I could do was use the one. I couldn't send the rest back to depot, but nonetheless, I had to throw it away. The same screwdriver, hammer, or wrench costs 10 times what it does for you and I if we walked into a Home Depot or Lowe's. You're talking about being a good steward of the funds in which you are responsible for. Bonnie Watson Coleman currently sits on appropriations. Do you think the freshman congressperson is going to be able to get that gig? Probably not. But we need to be good stewards and make sure that you have a congressperson that is watching every dime and sending those dollars back to New Jersey and making sure that the appropriations are for education, health care, housing, and anything that impacts the quality of life of the people in the District 12.
Thank you.
I think, well, first let's acknowledge the veterans in the room. Thank you for your service. My mother was a Marine and ultimately became a federal judge, and so I acknowledge them in this room. To answer this specific question, the answer is yes. We need to prioritize domestic spending. I think it's hard for me to justify we're bailing out Argentina when people are hungry, right? It's hard to justify we're sending bombs and planes places around the world when people don't have access to food. So yes, we need to reprioritize how we spend. We look at what the Republicans are doing as far as how they're cutting Medicaid and the restrictions in there. They're saying that this is tied to cost savings, right? That can't be the case. We have the money to do it, and we should be making sure we prioritize domestic programming over our military.
One of the biggest funding we have is for Pentagon, $800 billion. In past, we never were able to succeed to audit. What I would do is I will work hard to make sure we can have an audit and oversight where money is going. As we heard from other fellows, so we don't know which special interest is taking that money. The things which cost a dime and it costs $1 there. So that will be the first thing I will do. I want to make sure that I work across bipartisan and ensure that we push forward for audit. That's number one. Secondly, if I take an example of a Gateway Project tunnel, it was the fund was frozen and it impacted 100,000 of jobs and it would have impacted $40 billion of the GDP, which it would have contributed. As in New Jersey, we spent $75 billion more. We sent those to federal government. So I would work hard to bring those some money here in human services. Thank you.
Okay, so once again, I'll do some of the heavy lifting. This is a hand raiser. In the past 2 years, the Israeli military has killed at least 71,000 people in Gaza, with the majority being women and children and nearly the entire population displaced, my family being one of them. The Lancet Medical Journal, however, estimates that number is likely closer to more than 186,000 human beings. The United Nations Commission of Inquiry and over a dozen international human rights organizations, such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and Doctors Without Borders, have stated that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. So by a show of hands, do you agree?
Continuing with a foreign policy question. According to the Council on Foreign Relations since 1947, the United States has provided Israel with more than $300 billion in economic and military assistance, often without accountability. In the past few years alone, according to the Quincy Institute and State Department, that figure has totaled almost $29 billion. Money that could have been spent domestically on social services, as we've mentioned a couple of times here tonight, student loan forgiveness, and health care. In addition, the United States continues to sell weapons to the United Arab Emirates, also known as the UAE, which is actively supporting the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, in Sudan, with funding, arms, and military assistance. According to the United Nations, the civil war in Sudan has claimed more than 150,000 lives and forced 14 million people from their homes. As a member of Congress, would you support enforcing existing U.S. laws, including the Leahy Law, the Arms Export Control Act, and the Foreign Assistance Act by restricting arms transfers to foreign governments when there is credible evidence of human rights abuse. Let's please start with Elijah Dixon.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yes, I would wholeheartedly and fervently support the administration of those laws, but we need to go a step further. I believe that those laws are just a basis point, a starting point, and we need to take a very hard and deep look at our campaign finance laws and acknowledge that many of these same institutions who are capitalizing the political action committees of our Congress and senators are also the same ones who are deeply invested within the military-industrial complex. And until we begin to address the root causes of why these wars are perpetuated and sustained by American tax dollars, we are not going to have an end to the genocides in Sudan and also in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I would enforce and support the enforcement of the Leahy laws. It's easy now for everyone to say that there's a genocide going on because it's so clear, but the violations of human rights goes back many years. And even when it's not popular, we need leaders to stand up and say that this is wrong. It's not just about when it's too late. We just recognized a genocide in Bosnia 30 years later. And if they're not recognizing a genocide, if not defining it for what it is, then it's easy to avoid the laws with the loopholes. So we need leaders in Congress that will do what's right when it's difficult, to say what's wrong and stand up. And it doesn't just take one person. We have to create an environment in Congress where it's not corrupt, where people can work together and not be afraid to speak up because they're afraid of retaliation. So, yes, we need to do everything that we can.
Yes, so I agree with that. I think, in addition, I really admire what they've been able to pull off in the Mediterranean, shutting all those ports and building all that organizing to have an infrastructure to pressure things. I'm 100% pro BDS. We need to keep the pressure on, and I would use the office to continue to organize this movement and continue to push the economic pressure points that will deliver the needs. The laws are in the books, we need to enact them, we need to enforce them. But it has to be a combined attack. We need to do it from different fronts, and I believe we can make things happen. The tide is already shifting, the public opinion is in our favor, and we just gotta give more wind to the sail and take it to the finish line. And I hope that one day we will see a free Palestine. Thank you.
I agree with Dr. Adam Holloway, 100%. We definitely need members in Congress who are not afraid to stand up for justice for everybody. Yes, it is a genocide. And yes, I have always said from the jump, free Palestine, free Sudan, free the Congos, free everybody who is facing these atrocities in their countries. So we need people who can speak truth to power and call out white supremacy for what it is, and stop funding these agencies that are just attacking and brutalizing communities across this world.
So I must say that the violence in the Sudan must end, and the international community must act. In the words of Dr. King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. American tax dollars should not be used to pay for the death of children, for the genocide that we are witnessing, for the practice of apartheid. We have seen what happened in South Africa decades ago that led to the imprisonment of Nelson Mandela, the apartheid regime, and the world, international entities rose up against that apartheid. And the same must be done today. I support Israel's right to exist and the Palestinian right
to self-determination. That should be a given. And American tax dollars, as I say, must not and should not be used to carry out genocide, the killing of innocent men, women, and children in the Gaza.
Thank you.
Yes, our tax dollars should not be funding these atrocities. You're talking about, as we've heard over and over again this evening, human rights. Using starvations as weapons of war. Not allowing humanitarian aid to get through. This is not a hard thing to solve. It is easy enough to say what you can do, what you want to do, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But we need fighters in Congress and leaders, principled leaders, to fight for what's right and not their own agendas or the agenda of those who are wealthy. We have the same issues here on United States soil. But what we have to do is stand up and come together as one. We cannot do this fight alone. If you think you're going to send a congressional candidate or a leader to be able to fight that alone, we have to come together, stand up, and speak out for the human rights and dignity and compassionate care that we all deserve.
Thank you.
So, I mentioned up front in my opening statement that now we're in a moment in this country, and I think it's a historic moment, where we need, and this moment is calling for principled, valued leaders. I think we need some consistency coming out of our foreign policy. You can't treat one country one way and another country another. I believe we need to be standing up, and our foreign policy needs to be rooted really in dignity and human rights and protecting civilian lives. These are the things that we should be doing. So yes, to this specific question, yes, we need to be restricting our any funds that we're giving other countries to ensuring that they're protecting human lives. That's who we are as a country. That's who I am as a person and as your congressman. That's who I'll be representing this district.
I believe in we must hold two truths at once: condemning the terrorism and violence, and also protecting at the same time the human rights, international law, and violence against people, innocent people. At the same time, what I will say that any destructive weapons sent to anywhere, it has to be accountable, there has to be a enforcement, and if you want to have a good allies, you must have accountability and enforcement to strengthen and continue to strengthen your relationship. Without this, we're going to weaken our allies and we're going to discredit ourselves at international stage. So as a superpower, as a powerful country, we must ensure that we send any weapons with proper oversight and accountability. I will ensure that. Thank you.
I think what's been happening recently has been giving me a bit of flashbacks. One of my first early jobs was as an intern taking testimony for South Sudanese refugees who were in Darfur, came here because they were under attack by Omar al-Bashir and the Janjaweed, having their villages burned, and some of the atrocities that happened were just unspeakable. And now today, I've been speaking with a young man who's 26 named Abdul, who lives in Gaza, and it feels the same. And it just, there's no way to really deal with the fact that I know that our tax dollars, my tax dollars, have potentially created this situation directly. And I think we have to end that, and we can't be hypocritical about this at all. It has to end. I think there's no question about that, and I think the world sees it and Americans see it now.
I think we can all agree that aid to any country, whether it be Israel, the UAE, or Saudi Arabia, be conditioned and subject to human rights. And I would hope that the member of this district does not stand alone in having the courage to stand up for those human rights, because too often, we're surrounded by leaders who have a vested interest in war, who are often too afraid to come to communities like ours and face the music and actually be held accountable. And I'm not afraid to say that we should prevent criminals like Netanyahu from ever dropping an American 2,000-pound bomb on a place like Gaza ever again. I'm not afraid to say we should block American assault rifles from going to radicals like Ben Gvir to be distributed to settlers that take away land from innocent Palestinians in the West Bank. We know this is not an issue that has existed the past 2 years. We know that we've seen entire families, entire lineages wiped out ever since the Nakba. So this issue isn't new to us, and we have to use new tools like travel bans and asset freezes to prevent the extremism, because we need a new leadership generation that's not vested in war.
Underlying all these sentiments is a desire to bring us back to ethical behavior and moral behavior. We have a deep problem at home of not obeying the rule of law and not respecting human rights, either at home or abroad. Acts like supporting the Leahy Amendment, which I would support, are part of a larger picture in which we have to use Congress's power and reassert itself as the primary branch of government. When the executive branch abolishes the U.S. Agency for International Development, hundreds of thousands of children die. When we fail to predicate foreign aid on human rights in any country, we again are letting down our values. It is very hard to observe our values, but we need to take the one power that we have right now as voters and turn it into reasserting congressional oversight and dominance over how our American government operates.
Once again, I think I agree with the majority of the sentiment. I would add that we need to ensure that we're not economically supporting this, and we have the choice and we have the options. To be frank, one of the young people that I mentioned in BDS in the boycotts happening in Italy, one of those brothers is from Plainfield, New Jersey, where I'm from. Interestingly enough, in 1967, the National Guard sent tanks to our community. And in our community, they killed everything that was black and outside at the time. And now we see New Jersey where black youth are 30 times more incarcerated than white youth. And there are so many different disparities economically as well as with regards to incarceration. So I just would like to add that I want to make sure that we see the conflict happening domestically on our soil, the human rights violations and extreme disparities, and keep the energy consistent domestically and abroad, and refuse to economically participate or pay into our own demise. Thank you.
So our next question will be, how will your service as a future congressional representative be different from retiring Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman's tenure, and how will you be similar? We'll start this one with Jay.
Well, first let me say that Bonnie Watson Coleman is my inspiration to get into public service. She is the first person I ever voted for 10 years ago when I first turned 18. She was the first person to ever ask me for her vote. And one of the things she's been so successful at that I hope to continue in her legacy is that she had an incredible ability to bring resources back home to this district. Here in NJ12, we have some of the wealthiest communities in this country and some of the most struggling communities in this country. I've worked in the federal government before. I've had a top secret security clearance. I've helped implement the largest clean energy investment in US history. Even when I worked in DC, I took the train home on the weekends to help mayors and county officials and nonprofit leaders and faith leaders get access to clean energy grants. I've been in this fight before of how to make sure our taxpayer dollars are working for communities like ours. I'll know how to navigate the committees and infrastructure in Washington, D.C. to make sure that I'm more than just a cheerleader, that I'm actually a fighter who can bring home money. And I hope to bring a new generation's perspective to do that.
One thing that Congresswoman Coleman brought to this district was being rooted in the diversity of the district and really going to people where they live. As I've been in this race, I will say as a newcomer, I've been studying the district and I've been really inspired by all the different communities, Black and Hispanic communities in Trenton and Plainfield, Asian communities, South Asian, East Asian, and center of the district. affluent communities, struggling communities. I've been really interested in that. I found it really inspiring, and I think that Congresswoman Coleman serves as a great example of how we really have, any of us has to really meet that. I think for me, what's different is my reason for entering this race. Any of us has to represent you, the voters of this district. In addition to that, my core reason for entering this race is to look to the long term and to think about problems that were only on the horizon when she entered office. And we have to start thinking about rebuilding our government and making sure these crimes and the collapse of the last few years never happen again. And I'd love to work with people like Congressman Raskin, Don Beyer, and others.
Thank you. Michael?
First and foremost, like everyone else, I'm grateful for Honorable Representative Coleman's example. I think my time on Capitol Hill will be determined by how I get myself there. And I take from corporations, I take from bullies. I've sued the most vile billionaires in the United States, and I made them give me money. I help people with no equity in the system get justice and get compensation. And people that give me no money in return because it's the right thing to do. I'm a fighter, I'm from a fighting generation. I'm not taking AIPAC, J Street money, and that's one big difference off the top, just to be very clear. We are doing this by standing for the have-nots. I just left Capitol Hill working with a variety of legislators on holding ICE accountable, and I already have legislation that we've been creating around affordability and a track record of bringing resources to the state of New Jersey, and I'm gonna do that at a greater capacity with your help. Thank you.
If afforded the privilege of serving as your congressperson, like Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, I would be a champion for working class communities, speaking up for what's right, looking to enact equitable policies that are going to bridge the wealth gap here in this country. Where I would differ, and this is surely just due to the youthfulness being on my side, is I'll be very, very, very active across the entire country, helping to organize around other progressive races. There's 435 members of the House of Representatives. One congressperson cannot, especially a freshman congressperson, cannot introduce and enact policy, especially in this current political climate, being, again, the most right-wing that we've ever had in the history of this nation. And so where I would go is across California. I would go to Southeast Texas, north of Maine, to support other races, because we're going to need a coalition of progressive leaders to continue Bonnie Watson Coleman's legacy. And I'll be chief organizer-in-chief. Thank you.
Bonnie Watson Coleman served and listened to this community. She listened to the district, and her doors were open. She had services and outreach so that when you needed something, her office was open. And so I would do the same. She also served with courage. She was not afraid to say what's right, and she was a God-fearing woman. Even if she had to stand up to her party and they said doing something wrong, she was brave enough to be different. That's what I would do the same. And I would take it further. I would push my fellow members in Congress and hold them accountable for the decisions that they're making. Call out to the corruption that I see. I'm not beholden to any party leaders right now. I'm not in politics. This is new for me. I'm coming in here to do what's right, no matter what.
I think the best way to honor Representative Coleman's legacy is to do the things that she could not do and pursue things even further. I think the best way to honor her legacy is to not be afraid to not take pharmaceutical money, to not be afraid to take many of the donor money that, as much as I respect her and I voted for her in the past, I don't respect that. We can't be taking corporate money, no matter who it is. And that's something that I can assure you will not happen in my campaign. What I can do as far as furthering her legacy is we can continue to have that open door policy. We're gonna continue to do outreach in the communities, listen to what's happening out there in the streets, and carry that to Washington. That's something that I can promise you, and that I will do to make sure that the seat in this district has power and is heard. and we make noise in Washington and we're not ignored when we're flooded with all these issues in our district. Thank you.
This is an interesting question for me because I'm actually the only candidate who actually challenged Bonnie Watson Coleman. And not out of disrespect, because I respect her 100% and I really align with over 90% of her policies. I'm a progressive Democrat just like she is. But some things that I would do differently, I think that I am probably the most different politician that the state of New Jersey has ever seen because I'm the first openly gay man actually running for Congress in this state. So that's one thing. I represent a whole different constituency of the Democratic Party. And I also wanted to challenge her because I wanted to bring in a new generation of leadership to our country. Because I do believe that people in Congress right now, we do need age limits. We need age limits and we need term limits. And I believe that we are at a point in our country where we need a stronger, younger generation of leadership.
I would use Bonnie Watson Coleman's legacy as the launch pad to deliver more resources to the people of the 12th Congressional District. And I would use my background as mayor who has delivered for the people under the banner of one playing field. I would use my experience as someone coming out of corporate to deliver under the banner 112th Congressional District, working with my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, working with the problem solvers to identify resources that will address the affordability crisis that we are facing, and be in a position to bring resources to address the housing crisis, the healthcare crisis, as well as putting the people of the 12th Congressional District in a better position to enjoy a decent quality and standard of living.
I have sat at Bonnie Watson Coleman's feet for the past 5 years. She has been a mentor of mine, and the legacy in which she has established, the blueprint in which she has established, that any of us would be honored to carry out that legacy. What I would do differently with my military background, continue to fight, advocate, and champion for the people of the 12th District. Strategic and planning and tactical and execution. I have done the work for Somerset County and have been voted by my colleagues to be the director of the board, not once, not twice, but 6 times. I've turned Somerset County from red to blue. I've fought policies in changing the slave lexicon from freeholder to commissioner. We are not new to having a struggle or a fight in this nation or in this 12th district. As a divorced mother of 3, grandmother of 3, I know what it takes to be there, accessible, visible, and present for the people of the 12th district.
I would make sure I'm present, accessible, ensure we have the resources that we've earned for this district come back in this district. I will fight, continue to fight for truth to power. You will always know what I believe. You will always know my position. You may not always agree with it, but you will know my reason why. You will know my reason on my stance. Those are the things that Bonnie, Representative Watson Coleman, stood on. From a legislative standpoint, she continued to fight for health equity. I would want to continue that. My background in healthcare and life sciences, in this space, I will continue to fight for one of the largest job engines in this district and ensure that we are making sure we have the jobs that this district has earned with respect to innovation, and continue to do that going forward.
Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman have done a good job for our district, but we need much, much more. With Princeton University, with world-class research institutions, and highly educated workforce in our district, and with access to major markets from Richmond, Virginia to Boston, about $7 trillion, to third or fourth economy in the world. NJ12 can drive the next economic growth. With my 30 years of technology experience, I believe we can turn this vision into a results, not just the ideas, but just real outcomes. I'm going to work hard to bring federal policies to bring our district as a model innovation hub across America, reducing the affordability in the real terms, bringing the real technologies, bringing the housing cost down, as well as bringing the utility cost and public transit system, which is using the technologies, latest technologies, emerging technologies. And with these three things, we can bring affordability and more growth to our district. Thank you.
When it comes to, I think, politicians in general, I've never been a big fan of many of them, almost any of them throughout my life. But you work with people, you try to get things done. I think with Bonnie, I remember years ago where I would go down her votes and I would try and find one that I didn't like, and I'm gonna be honest, it was hard to find one. She really did, I think, stand boldly and sometimes alone in Congress. I think, there may be some policy differences and things that I will do that are very specific to some of the work I've done, but that loneliness, I think, has to end. One of the most fun things that I've got to do is to spend time working with the Zoran folks and seeing sort of that movement that's growing after the election. I think a lot of times during elections, people fall asleep. I plan to, not only have myself running a campaign, but also to run a movement that can grow after it.
Thank you. So with that, we've come to the end of our questions, and so I will ask every one of you today to please share with us some closing remarks. And I will remind you that we have 90 seconds for our closing remarks. And please state why voters should trust you to represent them in Congress. Let us please start with Squire. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming out on this cold Super Bowl Sunday. much appreciated. Look, my focus and my run for Congress was grounded in healthier, more affordable communities. I believe that's where we need to be, and that's what we should be fighting for. This community in particular, we have a lot of families here, Muslim families here, that are leaders, teachers, entrepreneurs, small business owners that span the district, and you deserve representation that makes sure that we protect civil liberties, we make sure we're protecting religious freedoms, we make sure that we're creating that broad coalition to ensure that the laws that we pass in this country benefit us all. As your congressman, I would aim to do that. I always tell people on the stump, it's challenge, change, commit. I aim to challenge the status quo, things that haven't been working, and I aim to change the laws to make sure that they protect the people that need to be protected with respect to lowering drug costs, expanding opportunities for education and economic opportunities in this district. And I say all this to say I will commit to do this with integrity. I will commit to fight not just against Trump, which needs to happen for a lot of his unconstitutional abuses of power, but to fight for you, fight for this district. And that's why I'm happy to be here and excited to earn your support as your next congressman.
America, I believe in America works best if we have every community which is respected and protected. I'm an immigrant and I'm a person of faith and someone who understands what it takes to live in between the cultures. At the same time, deeply believing American values, democracy, justice, and dignity. With my 30 years of technology experience and also several decades working in human services right here in West Windsor for several years, improving quality of life for adults with disability, as well as currently working on a professional side, helping more than 1 million children in early education. I'm going to bring a vision into reality, which is making our district an innovation model for America. These are not the words, we can do it. This is the time. We have emerging technologies, and with my experience, I can see bringing the housing cost at the level where everyone can afford. With working with the industry leaders and pioneers who are leading this technology, having the right federal grant and incentives, and coming here, we have the talent, we have the good universities, and that way we're not only going to bring the affordability in the real terms, but also we're going to bring down the utility cost and other technological advancement here. Thank you.
I would say I really don't know if you should trust anyone who's running for office and takes a seat. In DC, one of the most shocking things I saw was there was a dinner, I won't name names, with a bunch of staff, and the dinner was very lavish and paid for by an industry group. That's what DC looks like. It's that, and it's people sitting in a cubicle somewhere making calls for money. It's lonely, and those people are the people that you see. It's very hard for someone to come out of that and not feel like, oh, I might have to make a decision based off of that instead of the people and the faces in your district. And you can see why we have the sort of democracy we have right now that feels like it's at risk. I can't say that you should trust me or anyone, but I can say that I will definitely be someone who is always hoping to engage and organize the people of my district, because I know that you can't do this alone. You have to really, I'm not really coming to represent you, I am coming to work with you so that we can make the changes that we all want to see, ultimately. So thank you, and really happy to speak with you tonight.
Well, first, thank you so much to CARE, Engage, MCGP, and all the partners for organizing us here today. I know that a moment like this, in so many ways, feels like it was years in the making. I grew up 5 minutes from here, watching every day as I drove to school, this mosque being built, all the housing around here being built, and I'm so proud that we can stand together here as a community with so many of our colleagues here. I'm 28 years old. I'm the son of immigrants who gave up everything from their families to come here thousands of miles away. I watched the sacrifice that my grandparents and so many generations before us made so that the next generation could eat, have a roof over their head, and in some cases move thousands of miles away to a land they never knew. And that dream, that sacrifice was always based on a promise. We talk about it all the time, the promise that if you work hard, you treat others with dignity, that you can make it. You can be better off than your parents, your kids can be better off than you. And that promise is breaking. And it's up to all of us here in this election to decide if we want to keep that promise for the next generation. I'm proud to be not just the youngest person in this primary, but someone who's delivered in DC and in this community. I'm proud to be someone running in the community where I was born and raised. Now that Bonnie is ready to pass the torch to the next generation, I'm ready to be the champion for that generation. Because, like I said, we've never experienced normalcy. There's no back to normal that we're fighting for. It's time to turn the page and finally end the status quo and bring in the new energy that we need. And I hope that we can do it together. Thank you.
I'm a working scientist who's applied my knowledge to both understanding the brain and also to understanding how to make our rickety democracy work better. I have a proven record of making elections fairer. I'm going to apply my knowledge and all my effort to help stop the damage of the current problems we have in Congress and in our national government. I'm going to work to build a stronger system that will resist the things that have happened now, and we hopefully never see them again. In New Jersey, I've worked to abolish the county line. As I said before, the competition that we've seen in the 11th district and now here in the 12th district arises from the fact that there's a level playing field. And I was proud to be part of that by bringing testimony and understanding exactly what kind of evidence was needed to persuade a federal judge. I've defended ranked choice voting in a court in Maine, and I persuaded a Republican appointed judge to see that ranked choice voting was a good voting rule that was not against the Constitution. I've led research to establish national gerrymandering standards, and those research products have been used to stem gerrymandering and to call it out wherever it is in the United States. I've worked in the United States Senate, and I've seen the closed door process. As a working scientist, what I'm going to do is do what another former scientist, Rush Holt, has done for this district. I'm going to apply my creativity and my scientific knowledge to help see what's possible and to build new things and help repair this brokenness that's in our Congress and our democracy right now.
say you can accomplish anything if you don't care who gets the credit. And I've accomplished a significant amount of legislative and economic victories for this district, not because I wanted any credit or any cash. It's just because coming from Plainfield Public Housing, going to Harvard College and Wharton when I'm 17, and working in investment banks, including starting here at Milam, now BlackRock in Plainsboro, I saw what America looks like when it functions right, and I experience and live what America looks like when we live in disparities in the system in which our government exploits us. You should trust me because I don't know everyone's history and story, but I know I spent the last week of my life on Capitol Hill being someone standing for people that have no equity in the system. I'm someone that lives the disparities and fights every day alongside my wife from Colombia for people that are marginalized, exploited, and the truth isn't being told. Whether it's here, when we talk about the origins of Mansa Musa and those that came to this nation prior to European colonization, I may not always tell you what you want to hear or tell you something that fits a convenient narrative, but I'll always tell you the truth. And the truth is, there are very few people that would have an Ivy League investment banking Wall Street background and refuse any endorsements or capital from those machines, because I'm for the people, I'm for the trenches, I'm for the hood, I'm for the strivers, I'm for the have-nots, and I always represent for my people.
I would like to first start off by thanking the organizers for organizing this in an equitable and fair and open way. And I have to apologize to everyone if my voice and my energy seems a bit muted. In addition to being, of course, a father, working full-time and campaigning, I've also been on the front lines organizing, protesting, and taking strategic action against the institutions that have been disenfranchising my brothers and sisters. I understand that I'm an untraditional candidate. My hair is not always going to be tame. My words will not always be as polished as my look hopes to be. But I am honest, equitable, and I have real work experience. I can tell you about times being in DC discussing multiple $1 billion of investments and talking to Citibank about how they're going to deploy an equity product in Muslim nations that have implemented Sharia law, but they're still going to try. I can also tell you about coming back on the train from DC back to my neighborhood and witnessing gunshots, people on the ground. I have a very unique perspective. But one thing that's common with me is that my story is not unique, and it mirrors the work and the hard work and ethic and the tiredness of those within the district. And if I'm afforded the privilege of serving you, I'll make sure that the voice of the voiceless remains at the forefront of my policies. Thank you so much.
So I've sat in all your seats before, and I've listened to politicians come and talk to me and tell me what they're going to do and give me promises and ask for my support and ask for my vote. And I've been disappointed, just like all of you, many, many times. And I understand what it feels like to be marginalized, to be ignored, to be discriminated against. And I understand our disappointment in the leadership that we see in our country today and in the direction that our country went. And I have a history of going to places where people don't want to be, to leading teams into the most dangerous places in this earth where everyone is trying to flee. And I have a history of speaking up and working in the trenches with my hands with people every single day and understanding their problems no matter who they are. And when I told my mother I wanted to run just a few months ago, or less than a few months ago, a couple months ago, she said, "Don't do it because they're all liars." So I said, I will not be one of those. So if I could go to the ends of the earth to help save people's lives, I will go to Washington and help you. And I will do that with every fiber of my being. Thank you.
I respect what Dr. Hamawi said. I'm in the same line. I know what it's like to work hard. I know what it's like to wash dishes. I know what it's like to clean feces. I know what it's like. I have an injury actually on my right shoulder from working. For several weeks, I had to work just with my left arm. I know what it's like to do all that and still not be able to pay rent, to struggle to find health care, to struggle. I don't even know. I go to Kane University. I don't even know how I'm going to pay my student loans when I'm out of the university. And many of your children, your siblings, are experiencing the same thing. I know many of your parents are not going to be able to afford their rents soon. They can't. We are living in a society that is unsustainable. And I know we need answers, and we need folks that are willing to put up the fight for all of us, for District 12, and to represent the families and the needs that you all are experiencing. What I can tell you is that I'm a fighter. When ICE came to my community, I was organizing the largest apartment complex in my community. We were putting efforts together to try to bring rent down and negotiate things. That's what I do. When I see something wrong, I try and I do my best effort. We collected money to help seniors with rent. We carpooled to take them to the food bank so they could afford something to eat. And what I can tell you is that if you send me to Washington, I'm gonna fight like hell, and I'm gonna fight for you. Thank you.
All right, so let's set the record straight. I've been in this race 7 months before any of these other candidates. And actually, I'm a firm believer that actions speak louder than words. I've been there. I've been at the protest. I've been driving my 2015 Nissan Sentra, because yes, I am not a millionaire, all the way from Plainfield all the way down to Trenton, okay? I have been there for the Muslim community. I have reached out when the Muslim community had a crisis, a supposedly on a crisis in Gaza. I met Rashid. He told me to come back next week to meet the school board. I came back next week. I reached out to Rashid again. He introduced me to Azra. I had a full Zoom call with the Muslim community. So actions speak louder than words. Right now I'm doing a small business tour because I'm a small business owner. I am visiting small businesses all across NJ12. I have done a food drive where I collected food at my studio, delivering food in my personal car all up to local food drives, local food banks all across NJ12. So again, and I've been doing this while being a small business owner with 2 fitness facilities and an adjunct college professor that's running for Congress at the same time. So actions speak louder than words, and hopefully I have shown you that you can trust me, and I will continue, and I will never lie to you, and I will always speak truth to power.
Well, thank you again to the organizers and to everyone who shared their voices here tonight. This conversation affirms what I have seen as mayor. Communities thrive when leadership is rooted in listening, fairness, and follow-through. In Plainfield, we have shown that when you bring people together across faith and backgrounds, you can deliver real progress, including economic opportunity, better housing, education, safe neighborhoods, and dignity for all. That is the leadership I will bring to Congress. At a time when Washington too often rewards outrage over outcomes, our district deserves a leader, a representative who delivers progress over platitudes. Someone who understands fiscal responsibility, civil liberties, and the global consequences of American policy. I will be a consistent advocate for human rights abroad and dignity, justice, equity at home. So to New Jersey Muslim community, I know you want leaders who show up consistently, not just during campaigns, but every day in moments of ease and moments of crisis. I don't see partnership as seasonal. You have the same dreams I do as an immigrant, a father and a husband for an America that is inclusive, not exclusive, a nation where every family can fulfill its God-given rights, its God-given dreams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the organizers for putting this together. If you believe in principled leaders going to Washington, you need a leader that is not going to Washington for on-the-job training. You need a leader who is steeped in action, a leader who has been there for the people, a leader who is a survivor and thriver, a divorced mother of 3, a grandmother of 3, a domestic violence survivor and thriver. And I don't look like anything that I've been through, but I continue to show up for the people in which I serve. It's because I am a leader who believes and has done the work for workforce and economic development, better access to education, better access to healthcare, and I've done it day in and day out with a smile on my face. It's about doing the heart work. This is not hard work. You need a leader with a proven track record, not just by words, but by actions. These points and issues and priorities we've spoke about on this evening are not just words. It demands us to the sense of urgency and a moral authority to get the job done. I am strategic in planning and tactical in execution. You don't have to take my word for it. Let my record reflect and the work that I do for the community speak for itself. We can sit here all day and talk about statistics and policies, but think about those who have done the work and that are doing the work. And I will continue to show up and show out for everyone in District 12, no matter what, no matter who. The goal and the mission is simple. We have work to do, and Washington is on the map to making sure that New Jersey and District 12 residents get what they deserve. Thank you.
So I want to thank all the candidates, of course, the hosts of tonight's program, Engage, CARE New Jersey, the New Jersey Muslim Civic Coalition. If we can give them a hand. We've got to pay attention. Take 1 second.
على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Thank you again for your observance. That is the fourth prayer of the day. We've got to pay attention. We've got to pay attention to the words that are spoken by candidates like these, by the sentiments that are expressed, because these have real consequences. I'm 23 years old, and my generation is petrified. How is our healthcare going to be funded? How is my education and the education of my children going to be taken care of? When we think about the voiceless and the formless bodies of hundreds of thousands of millions of people all over the world, these decisions that we make, they affect them. Just last night, I had a funeral service for my great-grandmother. Now, not many people have had the privilege of meeting their great-grandmother. Mine was raised in Gaza, Palestine. She lived until the age of 99. Now, she had 2 wishes during her life. The first was that she could live until the age of 100. And the second was to be buried right beside her house. 2 years ago, we had to pay money to smuggle her across the border from Gaza into Egypt. And so my great-grandmother did not accomplish the last 2 wishes of her life. But this is not a sad story. This is a call to action. And so I ask you guys, whoever it is that is eventually chosen, and even if you are not, you guys are not just candidates, you guys are leaders, and we need leaders today. Leaders for this country, and leaders for the world. So let's all do what we need to do to make the world a better place. Thank you for coming. I believe we have a couple more words.
Thank you. Can we please give a round of applause to our 2 moderators? Councilwoman Imana Badawi from Cranberry, and thank you so much, Brother Omar, for your wise words. I'm just going to close out first and foremost. I just want to take a note, and maybe some of you who are a little bit more observant noticed, every single candidate here is a person of color. And as I mentioned at the top of this meeting, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman made history by being the first Black woman ever elected to Congress from New Jersey. A lot of us organizations recently did a candidate forum in CD11, and the candidates at that forum looked very different. And I think that is really reflective, someone noted earlier, of the diversity of this district. And we really have an opportunity to continue that legacy. In CD11, presumably, I know it's not official, but I'm just gonna say it, they just potentially elected the first Latino woman ever elected to Congress. So, I commend everyone for stepping up. It's not easy to run for office. So thank you, all of you, for taking the time to come. Again, for all of you, I know there's a football game happening later, so I'm just going to wrap up really quickly. So once again, thank you. I am going to ask for the candidates if you can just stay where you are. I will ask for a group photo, Brother Ramzi, Sister Maima, the 2 moderators, Azra Beg, if she's in the room, and Sister Nadia. We're just going to take a group photo. And once again, thank you. Please stay. We have refreshments in the back. This is your opportunity to engage one-on-one with the candidates as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Let's be really quick. I think people are holding back myself from
No, please don't. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Thank you, bro.
Once again, can we just really quickly take a group photo? If I can ask the candidates to just come in front of the tables. There are many of you, so we're just gonna have to kind of group together. Let's just squeeze. If you can just come in front of the tables, please. We'll just take a really quick group photo. Thank you. Okay, Ramsey, let's come on quickly.
I'm very big on you know what I mean? Massachusetts was here like 5 years before.
Get closer, like you like to. Come on.
موازين فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية الله
I'm gonna bring it in. It's for them. For you guys.
سمع الله لمن حمده.
Looks like nobody submitted the ballot.
I want my girls to be these are two of my six. I'll leave.
Did you really? Send it to her.
Yes, in that album that I found.
Is it still recording?